came across this foreigner that was saying that no Filipino employees are trustworthy. Let's talk about that now.
Subscribe now.
So I did something that I don't normally do, and that was I was looking at one of the expat forums here in the Philippines. It's a Facebook group, and I gotta say I mostly stay away from a lot of the expat forums in the Philippines on Facebook because they're super toxic. I don't know why there are so many foreigners on these forums that are just really so negative, or where I feel so often the guys sound like kind of like punk 13-year-olds. But for some reason, these forums often attract these guys. I posted a video that I did recently on the forum, knowing I would get a lot of crazy comments, but the video was talking about should foreigners start a business in the Philippines. And one of the foreigner guys on there said that if you are going to hire employees in the Philippines, you either gotta be there as the expat, or you need to try your best to find a trustworthy or reliable Filipino. Otherwise, they, Filipinos, would take advantage of you. And then kind of surprising, a Filipina, I believe living in the US, but originally from the Philippines, responded and says, yes, that's true. So is that the case? Can Filipino employees not be trusted? It's honestly something that I come across pretty regularly, where I'll get comments that I've done business in the Philippines. Something that honestly I hear from people fairly regularly, where they'll either say, I heard this story where you can't trust people in the Philippines, or I had a business and this person did this and that to me, and so you can't trust Filipinos. But I want to talk about my experience here and also my experience of living in the US. I think that if you are a business owner, you are going to deal with the best of employees and the worst of employees. It's just kind of part of what happens when you own a business. And I know for me personally, I'm so deeply grateful when I find employees that are hardworking and they're just a joy to be around, and they're always trying to improve their skills, they're dependable, trustworthy, all of the kind of check marks that any employer would hope for. However, I think no matter what country you're in, you're going to have some experiences that aren't quite so pleasant. Or maybe an employee is just not showing up on time, or not showing up at all, or they're just underperforming. And I think what happens so often is that when people move to the Philippines and they start something here, they're really living in a little bubble where they're not really seeing the whole picture. They're just seeing their limited experience from being here a short time. And I think one other thing that often happens is that people are hypercritical of a new place where they are, or they're really hyper focused on every little thing. So if something goes wrong, they kind of feel like that's what everything is like in the culture. But in their own culture, they're just kind of used to things going right, things going wrong, and so they don't pay so much attention. It's kind of like if you've ever had a car that you've wanted to buy. Maybe you came across it looking at a car dealership, and then once you left that dealership and once you had in your mind that you wanted that car, everywhere you were seeing that same car. Or it might just be a car color, where maybe you wanted a yellow car or something different, and before you never felt like you saw a yellow car, and now everywhere you go you feel like you're seeing yellow cars. I think the same thing happens here sometimes with employers and employees, where somebody might be an expat living here and they feel like they heard somewhere that Filipinos can't be trusted in terms of being employees, and then the next thing they know, everywhere they're looking, they find that. So what's been my experience here? As an employer for 3 years here in the Philippines, I gotta say, I've experienced it all. I have had the most wonderful employees that I just appreciate so deeply, and I've had employees that have done some pretty terrible things to me as well. So I've definitely experienced the good, the bad, and the ugly here. But I think it is so unfair for people to kind of just make a blanket statement that all Filipinos are like X or all Americans are like Y. The reality is there is good and bad everywhere, and if you're looking only for the bad, chances are you will see it I think what really needs to happen is that people need to look at the whole picture and really have a balanced perspective. What's gone right? What's gone wrong? What are the pros of doing business here with Filipino employees, and what are the cons? And I think if they're really honest and look in the mirror and see how things are in their own culture, they'll find that everywhere you go, there's good and bad. And really, as an employer, my job or your job, if you have a business, is to really find the best employees that we can and bring the best out of them that we possibly can. Let me know what you think about this topic in the comments below. Would love to hear your thoughts. And as always, guys, thank you for taking the time to watch, and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. Take care.